welcome to the Motorsport Coaching podcast, sponsored by Motiv8 Training and Management. This is a podcast where we talk to drivers and industry experts to help you maximize your performances on and off the track. Let's get started with today's show.
This week's Motorsport Coaching podcast, powered by Motiv8 Training, is a bit of fun. We catch up with Edwin Smith from the Social Sandwich. G'day, it's Matt Payne here with you once again. Edwin's been at the forefront of social media for around a decade now, which actually started in motorsport when he was at Channel 10. He's got some great stories, tips and tricks from the ever-changing face of social media and gives us an insight as to what it was like racing zebras and hippos to work when he was the social media producer on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here in the South African jungle. He's also giving an exclusive offer to Motorsport Coaching listeners, more on that later and in the show notes. In the meantime, we've got plenty happening at Team Motiv8, including our new website, which has launched at motiv8.com.au. Motiv8's online training courses are available all through there. Rather than starting your engine this week, load up your sandwich with your favourite fillings, kick back and enjoy my catch-up with Edwin Smith from The Social Sandwich.
I'm Dr. Chris Brown.
And I'm the teen sensation, Julia Morris. And I'm Julia Morris's autobiographer, Julia Morris. Overly handsy yoga instructor. Lady in the streets, freak in the tweets, Victoria Beckham's replacement, itchy spike, primetime mime. And I'm Birdwoman, Julia Morris.
And welcome to the Motorsport Coaching podcast this week. Edwin Smith from The Social Sandwich. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, good. It's been a while since we've caught up. I think we caught up some years ago back in your days at the 10 Network. You've gone on now to open up your own agency called The Social Sandwich. This month, we are focused on social media here at Motiv8 Training. So thought it'd be a great opportunity to get in, get you on, Edwin, have a look at your background and also pass on some tips and tricks to our listeners and subscribers to the Motiv8 Training pages.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, thanks for having me and for reaching out. Yeah, like you said, I think the last time we chatted was probably a couple of years ago when, back when I was at Channel 10 potentially. But yeah, like you said, I've kind of, spent quite a few years working for TV networks, so for Channel 10 and then for ITV Studios, or Channel 9 was the other one. And more recently now just working for myself as, I guess, a social media consultant, just trying to help people just get more out of social media because I've got a lot of knowledge to give and I like to talk about it, like to help people and to do a bit of, training, upskilling. And yeah, hopefully I can offer us a few useful tips today and practical tips as well that you can kind of use straight away. I don't like to, fluff around or beat around the bush. I like to just be direct and here's what you can do today to get better. And that's kind of my approach to social media.
Good stuff. That's exactly what we like to hear. To give a bit of your background, you do have an understanding of motorsport from your time at Channel 10. Obviously, it was heavily involved for many years through the Supercars Championship, Formula One and MotoGP. So you were working as part of the 10 Motorsport team in leveraging that through social media, correct?
Yeah, and I actually, when I first started at Channel 10, there was... they had one kind of Facebook and Instagram page, which was 10 Sport. And I was actually the one that started 10 Motorsport, which is their big Instagram, Facebook, Twitter pages now. So I kind of helped realize that there was an audience for motorsport because the 10 Sport umbrella it covered, cricket, rugby union, all the motorsport we had at the time, which I think was F1 and MotoGP and the supercars back in the day. I can kind of see there was an appetite for more than just a page that talked about sport. It was like, let's talk directly about motorsport. We also had the Sunday afternoon, like the RPM show, that had Larko on there for quite a few years. And, he used to do his motorsport segments. And yeah, so I kind of was the instigator in splitting up those pages and then just leading the strategy for both the 10 Sport and the 10 Motorsport for a number of years. Probably the biggest thing that I did in terms of I guess what's interesting for people was, pretty early on when I first got to Channel 10, I realized that there was this real opportunity for social media and the motorsport broadcast in actually being on the ground. And when I first got the coverage for sport and for supercars especially was someone sitting in the office in Sydney and just putting out videos from the race and photos from what happened and those kind of, the real traditional live updates. But pretty quickly I got involved and was like, look, if you want to take this seriously, we need to have someone on the ground kind of giving a bit more behind the scenes information, doing some, we did a lot of Facebook Live videos with our host, so with Matty J and whoever was kind of, on the grounds. And, that basically meant that, for a couple of years, I was heading out to the 5 or 6 events that Channel 10 would have. So obviously they only had a handful of those kind of like big supercar events, but I'd be going there as just the sole social media producer, kind of following around people with a phone and a microphone and asking them to do things for me. And I remember we did a lot of the Facebook Live when that kind of was first exploded onto the scene. And so I remember we did a broadcast quality Facebook Live in the pit lane from Bathurst, which, was pretty unreal. I think we had Mark Howard or Howie and Grant Denyer hosting that, which was pretty unreal. And they just kind of walked down the, pit lane. I think it was maybe a couple of hours before the race started, but I was kind of helping produce that and make sure that they, just went in and talked to some people, and it was all live and crazy and in the moment, but it was all part of this bigger idea of, offering a bit more value to the audience because, people are watching the broadcast, they've seen the race, they've seen what happens, but if you can offer a bit more, then it helps kind of bring people into that broadcast a bit more. So that was, what that was all about.
Yeah, 100%. You said it was wild and crazy, especially with Howie and Grant Denyer let loose. That would epitomise wild and crazy, I'd imagine.
It really was, and there was so much. I don't even know if that broadcast still exists. It's probably on the Facebook page somewhere, but because they were really well known as well, and because we were live, so they were just kind of walking down. They'd be like, "Oh, there's Craig Lowndes, quick, get over here," and then Lowndes would kind of jump in and go, "Hey boys, how are you?" And like it was really kind of rough, and the plan was, okay, we're going to walk from one end of the pits to the other, and just if people stop, we want to talk to them. If fans come up and yell or do whatever, let's just roll with it. And that was as much as the planning was. But like you said, it was loose, it was fun, and it was really engaging too. We had so many people just tuning in and watching, and it was, the whole goal was just to let people know as well that the race was. I think it might have been actually on the Saturday before the shootout maybe, and the goal was, right, we just want people to know, and so we kind of gave them something to do, which was watching this broadcast before the shootout. By the time it finished, the shootout had started and or was about to start, and so that actually led to more people watching the broadcast on TV, which was a big goal, which was get people to the to watch the broadcast on TV. But we did it in a really fun way.
Mate, we just dropped out then, so so the back end of that sort of dropped out. But anyway.
So my internet, I'm bloody in a big apartment complex, and I think everyone is working from home, and so every now and then my internet just
it goes to
actually I'll just move down closer to the internet because I don't need my nice backdrop.
Yeah, cool.
I need to sometimes sit next to the bloody Wi-Fi, otherwise it's shit. It's not ideal when I spend my whole day doing Zoom calls.
Yeah. I'll just pick up from there. So to paint the picture of this time, you speak about doing these Facebook Lives. We're talking almost 10 years ago, so it was very early on in the development of the Facebook Live process and utilisation of social media in those sort of ways. So it was quite revolutionary, certainly in the Australian market at that point, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. And it was something, that we jumped on pretty early. Like you said, it was, maybe not quite 10 years ago, but it was probably definitely maybe 4 or 5 years ago when they just launched this idea of, hey, it's live streaming is going to be a big part of Facebook. And And what happens is with Facebook, with Instagram, when they launch a new feature, it's worth keeping an eye on what they're actually doing in terms of new features, because what they do is they prioritize those features. So they give it a bump in the feed to make sure more people see them, which makes sense because they want those features to succeed. And what I realized pretty quickly was when we did a Facebook Live, no matter what the page was for, there was a huge amount of people that would see it because, Facebook was almost forcing Facebook Lives down people's throats. So we were just getting these massive numbers on, like kind of record-breaking numbers on any live video we did across, not even just motorsport. It was across all our social media channels. Like I remember we worked out a way to hack the system, and going a little bit off topic here, but one of my other jobs, like my early jobs, was I was running the Channel 11 page, which is what 10 Peach was called. So I was like one of the early like multi-channels for Channel 10, and they had The Simpsons on every night. And so we had the rights to The Simpsons. And what we did was we did a live stream of like famous Simpsons moments just looped. So, like Lisa needs braces for that 20-second grab, and we just looped it for, I think we streamed it for about an hour and a half. And so people would tune in, just be like, just watching this video of, dental plan, Lisa needs braces. And people are there watching it. They're like, why am I watching this? What? And then all of a sudden, all these people would be like, this is the worst but best thing I've ever seen. And I think we had something crazy, like 500,000 views on it or something. And it was just because of how much it was being prioritized in the feed, and just the success we saw was nuts. And, something that I still talk about today is when there's those new features of each platform, of trying to jump on them pretty early. And one of those, right now is Instagram Reels. Like they're the biggest thing on Instagram right now, in terms of the kind of organic reach and the eyeballs that you can get on your content just by using that feature, because, it's maybe 6 months, maybe a little bit older. But because it's such a new feature, Instagram wants Reels to work. They want to compete with TikTok. So it becomes a really smart thing to do to kind of jump on those new trends and use them as a brand or as an individual to kind of capitalize on what they want to work.
Yeah, that's a really good tip there. So guys, keep an eye out on what new features are coming to all of your social media channels, and just be across it and have a look at it, and then jump on board, because that's how you are going to amplify your following. So after getting on board with motorsport and so on, and really getting your feet under the desk at the 10 network, you went on to do some really, really cool stuff. Like I think at one stage you're over in the jungle with I'm a Celebrity.
Yeah, I think I kind of, off the back of building up my, reputation of knowing what I was doing, I guess. I was lucky enough to be the kind of the social media producer for I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here in Africa. So I ended up going to Africa 3 years in a row and spending between like 8 and 10 weeks, literally in the middle of the jungle, getting up at 3 a.m. in the morning to make content for that TV show that was on, to kind of match up with the time zones, and, working kind of 14-hour days, but, having and being lucky enough kind of every morning I would have time with Dr. Chris and Julia Morris to basically stick a phone in front of their faces and say, do something funny so I can put this on our social media. But like I look back on those times as definitely the kind of, the highlight of my career, because it was, that a really tight-knit team. You're passing zebras on the way to work, and people were seeing hippos when they were walking home from work, and like all this just like insane stuff. But working on a really cool, fun show like that as well. Like I think, one of the things that I am just so big on is that social media really, when you strip it right back, it should be entertaining and it should be fun. And I think that show really epitomizes what, whether you love it or you don't like it, but it's a fun show. It's lighthearted. You hopefully have a laugh when you're watching, and we tried to reflect that on our socials as well. And, just tried to have a bit of fun with it. And, we did a lot of things that I don't think would really get away with anymore with, especially the way that kind of social media is structured now. But I remember back in the day, like, I think it was maybe the second year I was there, we there was all these kind of conspiracy theories that the show wasn't actually filmed in Africa. And, we were in the Blue Mountains in Sydney and we weren't actually in Africa. And so we'd be sitting there at, 40-degree heat at lunchtime while people are like, you're not even in Africa. And I was like, mate, I can see a zebra across the road. Like, I'm telling you, we're in Africa. But I remember I was sitting there one lunchtime and this was probably 10 o'clock Sydney time, like after the show had finished filming and, just exhausted, delirious, tired. And I was like, wouldn't it be funny if we just put the location on Instagram? So like our geolocation as Katoomba, Blue Mountains, and then just see if anyone notices that our location was set as the Blue Mountains. And I kind of did that. And, I was lucky enough that I had a bit of freedom, like a bit of creative freedom from the bosses. I didn't have to, get approvals or anything for it. So I was like, I'm just going to give this a go and see how it goes. And then, the comments started rolling in. Oh no, they've stuffed up. They've accidentally left their location on. And that's proof now that they're in the jungle. And, went home and woke up the next morning and there was Daily Mail articles, news.com articles, like revealed that is the show not actually filmed in Africa. And I still remember just, everyone was just had a big laugh about that because of how just absurd it was and how kind of funny it was. And I think it just goes back to that idea that, for me, I always try to have fun and make it social media kind of interesting and interesting for people to follow along and to just have a good time. Because if you're boring on your pages and you're not showing a bit of personality, just no one's going to really care about what you're doing. And I think that's probably another good lesson for, the people out there listening, just to that idea of showing a bit of personality and having a bit of fun is just such a good way of approaching social media, I think.
In the jungle, did you get to interact with the camp that much, or was that completely off limits from your perspective?
No, once they go in, they're very much off limits, but we were kind of we would see them before they go in, so that the celebs we would do, like we'd usually get, say, half an hour before they went into the jungle to film a little video where we could kind of tease who was going in or something. And then once they were eliminated, like basically the social media team were the first people, apart from the doctors and the big bosses, to kind of see the celebs, because we would actually get them and film them eating their first meal. So obviously they've been eating rice and beans for 2 or 3 weeks. They're just starving. So they put in, before they go into the show, like a request for what meal they want. And we would basically give them that meal. So like, I want a big burger. And then we would have a camera there to kind of watch them just stuff down this burger. And again, that was just a kind of an extra bit of content that we thought of, which, was always fun and interesting. And the celebrities were always just so happy to talk to other people, because they would, they talk to the same 10 people for, however long it is, a month or something. And then also to get their hands on some kind of food. So that was always quite cool to, met a lot of definitely interesting people along the way. And, most of those, the celebs on the show, I got to meet and, at least hang out with for a bit. So got a few kind of, nice selfies with some pretty famous people along the way.
I think the thing is with that group of people, you've got such an eclectic group with so many various backgrounds that come into that. Were you able to learn any tips and tricks from some of those guys and having the opportunity to interact with them and seeing their different backgrounds?
Look, there definitely was, and it really was every year there was such a diverse group, and there were so many different types of people. It was comedians, sports stars, like chefs, athletes, like so many different people. And look, I'm trying to think if there was anything in particular. One thing that I always think about is it was actually with Julia Morris, and so she, for me, I think she's one of the funniest female comedians in the country, and just is even funnier when she's unfiltered. So, when she's not on a PG time slot. So I ended up spending a lot of time with her, because kind of every morning I'd spend, 5 or 10 minutes just chatting and trying to get some content out of her. But I remember she always used to say, she used to talk about how kind of much she thought about her brand online. And that was something that she kind of struggled with me, because she'd spent a career making sure that everything that was put out of her, every show she went on, was the funniest it could be. So people knew that she was funny. And so I think I learned a lot about branding yourself and making sure that when you were posting something, when I was posting something with her, that it had to be kind of top quality. It couldn't just be, we would film a joke or a little skit, say, that went for 20 seconds just to put on like an Instagram story or to put on Facebook or something. And then if it wasn't good enough, she would kind of say, "Oh, that wasn't very funny. Can we not use that?" And kind of being, I guess, selective around what types of content you put out, because, social media is that is what people see of you, and you want to kind of present an image that is who you are and shows the kind of the best you. So I guess being selective and being almost picky with content and not just posting stuff for the sake of it was a really good lesson that I learned from her.
Was she able to just turn it on? Like if you'd just be having a chat like we are now, and then suddenly you put a camera in front of her and go, "Right, go." Would she turn on, or was she build up? No, or was that just natural?
It was almost like she had to turn down a little bit, because when you're just chatting to her, she was just like a bundle of joy and just so up and about and positive, and I guess it's just swearing a lot and really quite like crass at times, which like I just found her hilarious. And especially when you consider the time that I spent with her was usually around 7 o'clock in the morning. So it was while she was kind of getting her makeup done, she was getting dressed ready to go from the show. So the show would start filming at about 9:30 Africa time. So the time that I spent with her, she was, still kind of, we're both still kind of waking up, but she was still so, so on. And it was almost like trying to strip back a little bit and
trying to catch the line, so to speak. Yeah,
exactly. But like we did so many funny kind of just 10-second bits or skits. And even like I always tell people that, like Julia Morris on that show, and just in general, I think she gets all the credit as being the funny one, but I actually think Dr. Chris is a really funny guy as well. And, I think because, he's quite a good looking guy, people forget that he's actually quite funny. And I always found that he was really funny and really open for my kind of weird ideas. And because of the way that it worked, often, Julia was getting her dress ready, getting makeup and everything. So often I'd get more time with Chris because he was like, chuck a shirt on and some pants and he'd be ready to go for the show. So often it would be, I do just content with him, but, I filmed things where, he compared himself to the face of Bond's, like Bond singlets, as the kind of cartoon character with a big chin. And so he literally like held up a photo of that and was like, "I don't see it." And, was pretending like he couldn't see the resemblance when he actually looks a lot like that. And like, he was such a good sport and would just be, would do anything. Like, I made him do some push-ups one morning and kind of did the, what is it? It was a dodgeball, he goes in, he's like 1,001, 1,002. And like, pretend like he'd just been doing push-ups all morning. And so he was like really funny and open to kind of content ideas as well.
I think the point that you make there about authenticism and then building a brand, I think it's about what I say to guys all the time is that when you've got a helmet on, people don't necessarily know much about you behind the helmet. So I think that being able to display your interests on your social media outside of racing is a very key thing, but also that authenticism that you talk about as well, in terms of these are the key pillars of what my story is. Stick to those and then base everything around the pillars of your story. And obviously that advances as time goes on. You change age, you change experiences, you might change categories when it comes to racing and so on. But it's important to have a baseline of what you talk about on your social media, or probably 2 or 3 baselines, I guess.
Yeah, I always say that, pick a few topics that you are going to talk about, because I think you don't want to try and just talk about everything and everything you do in your life, because that can get a bit too much and probably can be a bit boring. But if you're passionate about things outside of motorsport, you go surfing on the weekends, or you go see live music when you can, or you love cooking food or something. It's definitely worth kind of highlighting those things on your socials. And I think definitely going back to that point that you made around, I think even if it is just showing that your personality, and I think with social media, it's kind of like when you're talking to the media, right? And it's that kind of sports cliche when the footy players finish their match, they say the same things. They go, the boys gave 100% for the team and just dug in, and we're just taking it one game at a time and whatever. I think sometimes that translates to social media, where when you're writing a caption for a post, people try and write it really seriously and straight to the point, and it ends up being quite boring. But I think if you can kind of use that as a way of showing your personality, who you are, like, if you're talking to someone just at the park or at the pub or in real life, show that personality online. And probably a really, like, the best example I can think of is Dave Reynolds, right? Like, he is that kind of larrikin, funny, takes the piss, not afraid to have a laugh at himself or at others, and is just like authentically himself online. And you can tell when you see his Instagram posts or his comments or whatever he does, like, it's always like, you can tell that's who he is. And I think that's why, people kind of love him, because it
is authentic, because that's exactly who he is. And probably a little bit like Julia Morris, he probably tones himself down a little bit compared to what he is like. Because, like, having seen Dave in action, yes, that's exactly what he's like. And he is that authentic sort of guy. There's no, there's no sugarcoating what he is. Like, he just doesn't care. And, well, he does care. When I say he doesn't care, it's just like he puts it out there. And I mean, with motorsport, obviously, there's a lot of guys that's very sponsor driven. So therefore, you're going to have influences from sponsors and so forth. And that's the case too with your reality TV side of things. There are show sponsors which you would have come across. You would have had some from the marketing and PR departments, I'm sure, ways in which you've got to try and integrate that, which I think reality TV shows tend to do it extremely well with their sponsorships. What are some of the ways that you are able to to authentically integrate the show partners into your postings and so forth?
I think probably the big thing with that is it was always about trying to make it feel natural and try and make it still fit with the tone of the show and how we kind of portrayed ourselves online. And I think a lot of influencers, and like, I kind of hate the word influencers, but I think a big issue that I think influencers have is you can tell instantly when they're doing a sponsored post, because some marketing person has wrote here's what you have to say about our HelloFresh box that you're promoting. And you can kind of tell straight away as a fan or as a user, this is a sponsored post. I'm not reading this, and you kind of switch off. But I think the most important thing is going back to that authenticity. It's if you are doing, and when you're working with a sponsor, it's still keeping your tone, the way that you would talk about a product, and speaking like you normally would, rather than going down the kind of, I really, really enjoy my HelloFresh box because I enjoy eating healthy. Like, you could see someone like Dave Reynolds, right? If he was doing a sponsored post for HelloFresh, you could see that he could kind of be really playful with that. And I'd want to see that from a brand's point of view, of him kind of, maybe he's taking the piss a little bit or having a bit of fun with the way that he's promoting it, rather than here's the scripted marketing speak that we want you to use. So, like, anytime that we had a kind of a commercial agreement, we always tried to make sure that it still fitted with our brand and the way that we would talk usually.
G'day to the team at HelloFresh. Slide into our DMs. We are looking for sponsors.
HelloFresh, if you want to send me a box at the Social Sandwich, give me a follow. I'll do anything. Whatever you want me to say, I'll say.
But it's a good point. Like, I see, there's a lot of guys, especially younger guys, coming through go-karts and so on, that if they've got a sponsor on board every 2 weeks, they're just putting a logo up at their sponsor and say, go do this. Well, to me, that's not actually delivering any value to the sponsor, because I tune out. I want to see something let's do something a little bit creative with the sponsor. How can we show you their product in a usage situation for your everyday life? I think that's realistically a way that you can deliver value to a sponsor by jumping out the box, but again, keeping it back to your brand.
Yeah, 100%. And I think as well, it is easy and really tempting. I think if a brand approaches you and says, this is what we want you to do, we'll give you money for it. It's easy to be like, well, I need money. I need to do this. But I think sometimes it's also worth picking and aligning brands that you actually believe in. And that's why I choose HelloFresh for all of my weekly living foods. But if you don't believe in the product and you're just posting about it to try and make some money and to sell something, it's pretty obvious. And it's really bad practice to post content that is just directly trying to sell something, because you're not going to get engagements on that post. And that actually negatively impacts the way that your profile is viewed by Instagram and by Facebook, because no one's going to like and comment on a logo of a business that someone's posted and said, go to this website to buy this product. You're just not going to get the engagement. So that actually hurts your profile, because, Facebook and Instagram are going to recognize, hey, that post was a bit of a dud. So next time we're just going to not show that person's post to as many people as what maybe we usually would.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of planning too. So rather than just going straight out with, oh, hey, here's a post on something that's happened like today, think about what you're going to post, plan it, maybe take a photograph or do a video out and about, get a month-to-month plan going for your social media platforms. And can you also speak on like the different sort of platforms? I mean, you've got obviously Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, they all speak in different ways to different audiences. So I think there is a degree of importance in making sure that the way that you go about your posts are completely different for the platforms.
Yeah, definitely. And before I jump into the platforms, I wanted to mention just that an ex-bachelor, Matty J, does a really good job at sponsored posts. So he, I think he was on The Bachelorette, and then he was The Bachelor one season, but he's just like a funny guy, but he does a lot of kind of endorsements. But the way that he frames things is he'll do a little video and it's just funny content, and it's kind of linked in with a brand. So for a bit of inspiration, I think it's Matty J or Matty Johnson or something. He's got like 300,000 followers, so it should be pretty easy to follow. So he's worth looking at as like the gold standard for sponsored content, I reckon. But in terms of platforms, I think, yeah, it's definitely a widespread these days. So obviously you've got kind of, Facebook, which is the old stayer. It's been around forever. There's around 80% of Australians use Facebook. It's still the biggest platform. I'm finding that Facebook is harder than ever to actually get in front of people in terms of content, because there's just so much on there. You've got your Facebook profiles, you've got pages, you've got groups, you've got events, birthdays, sponsored posts, marketplace. Like there's just so much stuff. So I'm finding for a lot of clients that I work with, a lot of businesses, that it's at the moment, while it's got a huge audience, it's actually one of the hardest places to actually have your posts seen by people, because there's so much stuff on there, and also the way the machine and the Facebook algorithm works these days. So I'm trying not to hitch my wagon to Facebook, because I feel like it's kind of on the decline, and even with if anyone listening to this is under the age of 25 or under the age of 20, a lot of people that age are actually not even getting Facebook, so they're kind of jumping straight into the TikTok world and kind of bypassing Facebook. And so I think if that trend continues, you'll kind of see over the next 5 to 10 years Facebook become less important, is my kind of prediction, than those TikTok becoming more important, which I think TikTok over the last year has kind of solidified itself as being like the real deal. I think a lot of people thought maybe it'd be a bit of a fad, people would kind of get over it, but it's been around for a couple of years now and isn't slowing down in terms of people using it. It's fun. It really ticks that engaging, fun content box, which I think is really important. So I definitely think TikTok is is worth looking at. It's obviously a bit more of an investment and takes a bit more time because you're having to make videos, and videos takes longer than just taking a photo. But I think it's definitely worth having a look at, and especially if you're that kind of younger crowd and you're trying to appeal to a younger audience. TikTok's great for that. My MVP at the moment is probably still Instagram. I think it's that good sweet spot between Facebook and TikTok in a way that it's got a lot of people there. It hasn't quite been ruined by the algorithm like Facebook has. There's a lot of features these days. So, you do have your feed posts, you've got your stories, you've got Reels now, which, I think Reels are really important for people to be using in a similar vein to TikTok. But I think definitely Instagram is a great place just to kind of hit a wide audience because it does cover that younger and slightly older demographic.
I think with Instagram too in Australia, we're only just starting to scratch the surface with a lot of that, particularly from a commercial perspective. Like I look back to a couple of programs that I was running out of the US about 5 or 6 years ago, and like it was heavily weighted in the US towards being able to purchase from a call to action on Instagram, which I think that in Australia we're still getting our heads around that to a degree.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we're always, in social media terms, a year behind what America's doing. So you can always kind of look at America as industry leaders in a lot of cases in terms of what they're doing, how brands are acting, what they're doing on social media, and that kind of will eventually find its way down to us here in Australia. But that's definitely it's a good point.
What are some of the current trends that you're seeing in social media at the moment? Obviously, you've just touched on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Like, what's the industry seeing at the moment in general?
Look, I think a big one is probably, and it's not exactly new, but I think video is still really important for all the platforms. And even a couple of weeks ago, the head of Instagram came out and said that in the back end of this year, Instagram will be focusing more heavily on video because it's becoming a bigger part of their platform. And that makes sense with the kind of emergence of TikTok, with the emergence of Reels, just in that, the really quick, short 5 videos, people are loving that. So I think broadly speaking, and that's not exactly new because, video content's been really important for years. And even, back to when I was talking about Facebook Live 4 or 5 years ago, like it's not new, but I think that's really big. I think one of the things that I always go back to is with social media, the more things that change, the more things that stay the same. And while there's always going to be, trends and new features, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is engaging content. And that is, it doesn't matter if it's an image or a video, if it's interesting, if it's getting people to like, comment, share, save, no matter what it is, no matter what platform it's on, that's always your golden rule of good social media. So, there's always people say, the algorithm's changed on Facebook. It's really hard to get in front of people, which is what I've said. But if you're producing good content, people will interact and engage with you. And that's probably a really good thing about social media. And you've got the numbers in front of you. You can tell, are people liking your posts? Are people commenting? Are they tagging their friends, being like, hey, check this out. How good is this? You can kind of see those things. So while like video might become really important, it's still, at the end of the day, it's still that engaging side. And, it's going to be really interesting to see how video goes in terms of like long form versus short form as well, because, with Reels, obviously it's that really short 30 seconds or less, TikTok 60 seconds or less content. And I think people's attention spans are really short these days. So, with videos, you've only got a couple of seconds to kind of hook people in and grab them. So I definitely think brands are going to get better at that, initial few seconds, hooking people in and then keeping them around for longer. But I also think that kind of 10 to 15 second videos are going to be really important because that's sometimes all people want to do. They don't want to invest a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes into a video. They just want a quick little video, short and sharp. It's funny. That's interesting. They learn something and they move on to the next distraction. So, that's kind of interesting. But at the same time, I think there is still going to be that push for that, the long form, almost YouTube style content that like YouTube's just massive these days and isn't slowing down. And that's when you kind of, you really invest in a 10-minute video. And so I'm kind of interested to see how that all plays out. But yeah, a bit of a wishy-washy answer, went all over the place there.
No, that's cool. No, like a couple of places that I've really enjoyed content, I guess, over the last couple of months have been the Aston Martin Formula One's TikTok stream. They've now got a sponsorship from TikTok, and they're producing some really great behind-the-scenes content with some of the team members as well as their drivers. And also Daniel Ricciardo's LinkedIn. I mean, it's not very Daniel Ricciardo-esque, but I think that comes off the back of his sponsorship from Optus, and he's really giving some insights into mindset and so on and so forth. The other side of social media, of course, is that, you can get into a trap and develop some shockers and some pitfalls and so on. What advice do you have for our listeners in terms of avoiding pitfalls and shockers and getting yourself into trouble on the platforms?
I think it's just always worth remembering that everything you do online can be used against you. So I always think, like, what's the worst that someone could take this post? Like, what's the worst angle they could take of this or this comment? Like, could this be turned into a news article where, it's used against me in a way? So I'm always trying to be conscious of, not being cancelled, I guess. Like, you don't want to go, you want to have your personality and your opinions, but it's always kind of almost thinking worst case in a way, which it is always hard to kind of balance that line between, showing your personality and having some fun with it, but not going too far in terms of, what you're saying and how you're kind of presenting yourself. But always being conscious of that, I think, is really important. And even like things like direct messages, I think it's worth remembering that can still, even though it's private, that could still be a public thing. So, someone is like, and there's a lot of terrible people online, but if someone's trolling you online and you go and reply to a direct message, like, that message could then become public and be a bit of a nightmare. So regardless of where you are, it's always being conscious that, it can be used against you. And it's, everything you do online is public, whether it's, officially public or not. So it's just worth keeping that in mind, I think.
Yeah. And to wrap up, I mean, you've been great with your time. We're coming up to just over 40 minutes. So we've been going a little bit here. Give us a bit of an overview onto the Social Sandwich, which is your current project. Where did you come up with the names, firstly, because that's pretty cool. And what does the Social Sandwich actually do?
Well, interestingly, the name actually ties into motorsport, which I haven't even realized until just now. But I was actually having coffee with Kate Peck, who was the 10 Sport color presenter, I guess. So she'd always be, in the Moe lounge at the races and out with the punters and doing those fun stories from supercars and for RPM and everything. And so just being around her, we became pretty good friends. And I remember I was having coffee with her one time and talking about her Instagram, because I think she has 20 or 30 odd thousand followers, and she was like, what can I do to be a bit better? And this was back in 2017, and I was like, maybe I should, I know a lot about social media, maybe I should start my own little page and give out some tips. And so we were talking, and we were at this cafe, and I think someone ordered a sandwich, and then she was like, why don't you call it the Social Sandwich? Because it's like, each layer forms part of the sandwich, and it's got that alliteration, which I liked. And I was like, that's a cool idea. And I went home that night and actually reserved all the social media channel names for it. But I didn't actually do anything until kind of this time last year so I had those accounts for a couple of years, but when the pandemic kind of hit, it was probably around May, I think I started to focus on it. But, I realized that I had this information. I knew a lot about social media. I like to help people. So I was like, I'm going to start an Instagram account and just give out free tips for people around social media. Here's what you can do to get better. Here's some how to use hashtags, all of that, and just see how it goes. The part of it was also maybe I can earn some money, because at the moment I was like, at that stage I was working on The Voice. I was working on TV shows, but they weren't filming any TV shows because we were locked down and nothing was happening. So I was like, look, I need to need to make money or I'm going to go broke and be on the street. So, decided to start this account, and then, slowly kind of built up a bit of a profile, used, talked to the people that I knew. I think even Julia Morris, shared a few of my posts to her page to help, build my following. And now I work with a whole range of different businesses, of, celebrities in a way, but basically anyone from small cafes or hairdressers through to, to people that are on TV, just to get the most out of their social media game. And, I do a whole bunch of different things, from, just running sessions to upskill people, to doing little coaching one-on-ones where we go through the profile and be like, right, this is what you're doing well, this isn't what you're doing well. That's kind of, in a nutshell, what I'm kind of doing. So it's been an interesting, definitely few, year and a bit, kind of learning a lot, and being my own boss, which has been fun. The freedom has been quite nice, and it's been a weird year for a lot of people, I think, but I've been lucky to kind of, I guess, in a way, I almost fell into doing this because I didn't have any work to fall back on. So I've been forced to kind of to try it out and, sink or swim almost. So if anyone is interested, I should do a little plug, but I
was getting there.
I'm at the Social Sandwich. Give us a follow. I mean, you don't have to, but I'd like to think that all of what we talked about today, I present on my pages, especially, Instagram's a big one for me, but I try and do my, posts and my social media in a way that is fun and interesting, rather than boring and plain. So I hope that kind of comes across in my posts.
And I can attest for that. I mean, being part of the Social Sandwich Facebook group, there's quite an interesting bunch of people there, all from different backgrounds, particularly in sport. And so try and find that on Facebook. We'll have the links in the show notes as well, so that way you can hunt down Edwin and perhaps book a session and keep him off the streets. But
that's what it's all about. Give me a follow and like my content, because that's what it's all about. And
there are some great tips, and as he says, he does do one-on-one sessions and so forth. So by all means, check it out. Is there an absolute overall wrap-up, I guess, that you could give to the social media side of things? We're kind of coming towards the end, I guess, now. So here is a wrap-up or a major outtake for everybody with regards to their social platforms.
The big thing that I always just go back to is social media should be fun, and a lot of people forget that, and that's the biggest thing that I speak about all the time. At the end of the day, people are using social media as an escape, as a distraction, and as brands, as people, we've got to offer some content that is fun for people, because if it's not fun, if it's not interesting, if it's not engaging, it's not entertaining, you're just not going to cut through, and people are going to ignore you, and you're just not going to be seen by anyone. So for me, it always comes back to just, is your content fun? And whether that's just because it's fun because it's interesting, because you're funny, because you're whatever it is, that for me, it always just comes back to that. And I think when you strip back everything, that's the kind of the number one lesson that I have.
Fantastic, mate. Thank you so much for your time joining us here on the Motorsport Coaching Podcast. Edwin Smith from the Social Sandwich. We'll put all the notes in our show notes. Thanks again, mate. It's been great to have you on board.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate you reaching out, and hopefully there was a few good things that the listeners can get out of today and can start kicking a few goals on social media.
Too easy, mate. Well, thanks again to Edwin. There's plenty of great tips there for you guys. The Social Sandwich is offering a discount to Motorsport Coaching podcast listeners. For $90, Edwin will provide a one-to-one coaching session, including a social media health check. He'll impart some best practices, a content brainstorm, and a Q&A. If you're one of the businesses or celebrities he would normally consult, that'd be $140. So reach out, take advantage, give him some love. The full details of what he's offering are in the show notes. If you haven't filled out the survey in relation to the Motorsport Conference yet, jump onto our Facebook page and fill it out. The program is filling nicely. We're super excited about what the Motorsport Conference is looking like at the moment. Thanks again to Edwin for his time. Keep in touch with us in relation to your racing program and how we might be able to help you, whether it's nutrition, fitness, diet or media. And if anyone has a contact at HelloFresh, send this to them and put them in touch with us. Certainly Edwin gave them a good run quite there. Also, a quick shout out to our friends at the Extreme Karting Complex on the Gold Coast, the home of karting's Race of Stars. The guys there have been dealt a rough hand from the local council, which sees 20 people out of work and the venue shut down, hopefully only temporarily. If you haven't already, show your support by joining the Support Motorsport at Pimpamar Facebook group, and let's get this facility back up and running. Information in the show notes as well. Thanks again, guys. We love the support. Here's to COVID buggering off so we can enjoy far more blue skies and green racing this year. Until I'm next in your earballs, I'm Matt Payne, and you've been listening to the Motorsport Coaching Podcast, powered by Motiv8 Training.
Well, thanks everyone for listening to this week's show. I really hope you enjoyed that one as much as I did. Now, remember, all the show notes with the links and the specials mentioned in today's show are available over at motiv8training.com.au. If you haven't already, I'd really appreciate if you could head to iTunes or Stitcher, type in Motorsport Coaching, subscribe, and leave us a review. Each week, I'll read them out, and you'll go into a monthly draw to win a fantastic prize. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at motiv8training.com.au or head over to our Facebook page at Motiv8T. Until next time, take care.